Welcome to USA Global TV and Radio, where our mission is to provide education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration. USA Global TV and Radio connects you with experts and audiences all around the world every single day to help you succeed in business and to live a richer life. Visit us at usaglobaltv.com to learn about career and life-changing training and mentoring programs like the Listening Mentor. Subscribe to our newsletter to stay informed about our special programs and offers. Discover how you can become a guest on one of our shows or a host or producer of a USA Global TV and Radio show of your very own. That's USA Global TV and Radio, where the doctor is always in.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Red O'Loughlin here on Talking Heads on the USA Global TV and Radio Network and also on the E360 TV network. We started a program last month in December. It's almost February as we're turning around. And let me share some real exciting news with you today. Tonight, right after midnight, our first great-grandson is being taken, C-section. At least that's what the schedule is right now, but you know how births go. But this was originally scheduled for the first week in February. Things are going ahead. So our, I guess it's granddaughter-in-law is entering the hospital today, and they plan on doing the C-section later on tonight after midnight. So that's our first great-grandson, and we are so proud. So anyway, getting back to the real matter here on the Red O'Loughlin portion of, let me start. Getting back to Talking Heads. This is a show we do every week. Let me get my slides up so I can start talking intelligently. Okay, back up one. Okay, so we're talking about the journey of optimal health. I'm a researcher. I am not a doctor, never been in the pharmaceutical industry. I fell in love with chemistry in high school. Long story, but I've mentioned it several times. I never got a chance to practice it because I got an invitation to Vietnam. But nowadays, I study the human body at the cellular level, and I look for cause and effect relationships. Treat a cause, fix a problem. Treat symptoms, put a Band-Aid on it, and you're always treating symptoms. You're always putting a Band-Aid on. Nothing ever really gets fixed when you're working with a symptom-based solution. I believe our health and our wellness is really our own responsibility. And this presentation, as always, is for awareness and education. So that's the direction we're heading in. There's many ways we can start on any kind of path. I mean, many pathways. You look at something like Alzheimer's, you hear this two pathways. One, the tau protein, another one, the beta amyloid. But in reality, there's many, many pathways to Alzheimer's. There's many pathways to all diseases. But most of them start out at chronic low-level cellular inflammation. And when you start growing that inflammatory response, that mutation, now it can lead in a number of different directions. But with everything that we're talking about here, I laid out a plan for our optimal health, and I talked about our subconscious mind, getting our mind aligned. We talked about various other factors that we had. So we finally got down to, right now, we're about halfway in, maybe 2/3 of the way into diet, nutrition, the choices we have both home and away. And today, maybe we get into organ health. There's a really new study came out last year from Stanford University that talked about organ aging. Our organs age at different rates for various reasons. And they're actually able now to determine, I think there's 11 different organs that they are able to track, and they're hoping to improve it where they know exactly how, let's say your heart is this much older than your biological age or younger than your biological age. But there are things that you can do. We're going to be talking a bit about that so you have a better understanding of what are we doing and why are we doing it. So today, let's try to finish up as best we can on diet and nutrition. So we left off last time just at protein. We started saying, okay, well, let's talk about protein, and the time ran out. We went away. Protein choices, there are a lot of good ones. There are a lot of bad ones. There are a lot of costly ones. We're at a point where proteins are needed. They're needed literally when you go to sleep at night. that first portion of your deep sleep, your body's repairing itself left and right. It's just going crazy. So you need that protein, you need sulfur, you need a lot of things to get in there and make the necessary repairs to the body, to the muscles and everything else. If you're working out, you're an athlete, it's even more critical. Proteins are needed for our metabolic function. There's a lot of things in there. The amino acids are super critical. They're needed for our immune health. We have lots of options between animal, plant, and plant proteins, and I think I'll be talking about that. Okay. Availability. There's a lot of things that we're going to talk about. Diversity, myths, facts about our particular dietary choices. And right now I'm concentrating primarily on protein. Availability, all over the place. You can order it online, have it delivered to your house. You can have full meals delivered to your house. You can have people come in and cook for you. Lots and lots and lots of stuff's available. Just go online, type in what you need, and boom. Most of us usually go to markets. You go to the grocery market, you walk in, first thing you usually see is the fruit and vegetable portion, followed up by your dairy, and then followed up by your proteins. But all the stores are pretty much set up similar, where the outside ring, if you stay on that, you're pretty standard. The stuff we need to watch out for is those aisles that have a lot of the packaged goods, the processed foods and everything. And we also have the ability to go to a meat market, a fish market, and buy something very, very specific. I live here in Houston. When I was living in New Orleans, I loved redfish, available all over the place. Redfish, even though it's a major staple in the next state over in Louisiana, it's hard to find here in the Houston area. However, I buy certain meats at certain places. I want steelhead trout. I go to a certain store because I like that particular one more than another one. But look around, look at the quality that's there. There's lots of things, but diversity in protein, very, very wide. Fish, lots of it there. Poultry. Poultry probably is one of the better sources if you're looking at the actual available protein and what is available to the body, especially when you start comparing animal protein to plant protein. Where is that extra amount of protein coming from? Now, the issue with protein is there's so much information out there, and over time, there's a tendency to say, well, red meat's bad for the heart, red meat's bad for the kidneys, red meat's bad for, and that's all you hear. But in reality, there's a lot of research out there, and I do a lot of research on what are the myths. Are they valid? Is this something that is just testimonial evidence over time? Or is there really something that if I go into National Institute of Health and I start looking at some of these things, is there really evidence? And we'll be talking about that. But there's a particular myth that says you eat too much protein. It puts a strain on the kidneys. It creates health issues. Well, it can. It depends on many, many things. If I'm eating a lot of meat every single day, possibly, but it depends on what my age is, what my gender is. You know, if I'm an athlete and I'm out running, 20 miles a day, lifting weights, there's a lot of different things that depend on how much is too much. If we go with the standard, 3 ounces, 4 ounces for a meal, a couple of meals a day with protein, probably not an issue. Eat in moderation. That's what we always say. It's not what you eat, it's how much you eat. So yes, it can happen, but again, it's not the norm. How about another meat? Not all protein sources are equal. Well, that's not true. Animal protein, generally, you can get all the amino acids you get. If you look at just one plant protein, it might be lacking a particular one or two. But the amino acids are super critical, and there's, I think, 9 of them that are essential. It means you can't get them. Your body can't make them. In other words, I have a plant protein that I eat. I'm missing a particular amino acid. Well, depending on what I eat, my body can make that protein, or my body can make that particular nutrient. There's a lot of things there, but on a plant-based eating diet, you don't necessarily get all of the efficiency in being able to pull the right molecules out of the plant so that the body has enough of them. So you're subject to supplementation or other things. But in the big scheme of things, animal protein generally has all the amino acids you need. Plant protein, if you mix and match right, you get them, but there might be an issue with quantity. Another myth says high protein diets can help you lose weight. Well, yeah, they can. There's, I went on Atkins for years. I lost a ton of weight. I mean, 40 pounds in 4 months, boom, kept it off for years. Really and truly had a wonderful eating system with Atkins. But that was a low carbohydrate, high protein, high fat diet. You have the ketogenic diet nowadays. Very definitely they help lose weight. But when you're on a diet that's a low carb diet or high fat or high protein, you have to keep in mind, yes, absolutely mandatory must. You need nutritional balance. And is there an essential carbohydrate that you have to have every day? No. But there are things that we do have to have on a regular basis with our minerals and vitamins, over 32 of them, that are needed every single day for good body health and longevity. Another myth, protein shakes are needed for muscle. Well, protein shakes are convenient, but they're not necessary. Protein is protein is protein. It's going to come from various sources. If you're more on the vegetarian vegan side of things, you have to be extra careful with being able to get the right amounts of what you need on not only protein, but other sources of vitamins and minerals. But protein shakes, yeah, that's a convenient way to get it. You're getting it, from your dairy and other things that you put in there. But it's not a need basis. It's not a necessary basis. It's just a convenient basis. A myth, protein can cause kidney damage. Well, just like we hear protein, red meat can cause heart damage. Yeah, again, it depends on a number of things. On a normal intake of protein, 3 or 4 ounces at a meal, no. If I'm eating 16 ounces of steak every time I sit down, yeah, it can become a problem down the road. When I went on the Atkins diet, I read 5 different books on Atkins, and it said, be careful because when you're on a high protein diet, it can cause kidney issues. Well, I was aware of that going in. Never had any kidney problems. I lived on it. I loved Atkins. I didn't eat properly on Atkins because I didn't incorporate any fruits and vegetables into what I was doing. It was all fat and protein. But now I know the difference and why, and it becomes a whole lot easier to change that. But on a normal basis for people, not an issue. Now, if you're an athlete, it might become an issue because now I need more protein for muscle repair and everything else. But again, how much is moderate for an athlete versus just excess for an athlete? Those are things that can be easily looked up. We have another myth. High protein can cause bone loss. Well, in certain circumstances, yeah, you end up with excessive protein. Some situations can lower the calcium intake. You end up having some negative effects. But you have to take a look at what causes calcium to come out of the body, and it's not necessarily protein. Now, it's protein and fats because they cause an increase in pH in the body, and it's going to cause calcium to leach out of the bones to go into your bloodstream to keep a minimum pH of 7.4. But protein's not the only one. If all you're doing is eating fats, you have the same thing. But most of us on a standard American diet are eating too much carbs, and that has the exact same risk as excessive protein, excessive fats, and carbs. So if you're not eating protein and your 90% of your diet is carbs, you're still going to have a problem with brittle bone down the road, osteopenia, osteoporosis. Yeah, a lot of things there, but you have to understand, don't have to, but as part of our awareness program here on Talking Heads, is that calcium enters the bone with certain conditions. Calcium leaves the bone under certain conditions. And we've talked about this many, many times. But each one going in and going out are two different animals. You got to get the calcium molecule into the bone, but to keep it there requires a different set of factors. And we've talked about, like I said, we've talked about this many, many times, but again, a myth. Another myth, Plant proteins lack all essential amino acids. Well, no. Eggs and dairy and soy and quinoa and buckwheat actually have all 9 essential amino acids. They may not have all of them, but they'll have the ones that we need. And supplementation. If you're a vegan or a vegetarian, you really, really, really need to know your nutrition and what your body needs and where you can get it from. Okay. Plants do not provide all the balanced nutrition that we need. If you start looking at, well, if I'm a vegan and I'm not eating any meat, any dairy, anything else, there are certain things that I really and truly need to supplement. And so if I'm looking at what kind of problems might there be with just a plant-based diet only, well, plants don't provide you vitamin B12. Okay, fine, I get B12 from the store. I buy it in a bottle. I put it in my mouth. I swallow it. Wrong, because B12 is a cobalamin. It's only available in animal products. But that B12 that you're buying in a bottle is one cobalamin. It's called cyanocobalamin. And it does you no good at all. In fact, actually, your stomach acid dissolves it. It's of zero value to you. You have to actually buy the methylcobalamin, which you put under your tongue and allow it to go into the bloodstream without passing through your digestive system. So B12, again, so many things are needed by B12. I posted an article the other day. Vitamin B12 is one of the few nutrients that can actually destabilize the brain aggregate. They don't call it plaque, but it's an aggregate for Parkinson's. B12, if you're deficient in it, mimics Alzheimer's. B12 has so many things that's needed in the body, yet we're not getting enough of it. But B12, if you're on a strictly vegan kind of diet, vegetable-based diet, B12 is one you need to supplement and make sure it's one that goes under the tongue. Vitamin D, vitamin D3 particularly, it's not in the plant kingdom, but you need it. There's so many things the body needs, and most Americans are deficient in really deficient in vitamin D3. You want something that helps your immune system, that's one of the best ones out there. Again, we had to see the same thing with zinc, calcium, phosphorus, boron, manganese, magnesium, iron, sulfur, potassium, nitrogen. And those are things that they might be in the soil, but the plant is not absorbing it. The soil might be too alkaline and it's not allowing the processing in. You get some level of that into the plant, but it's not easily extracted by our bodies. Depending on how our gut microbiome is, that becomes a problem with being able to get the nutrients we need. Creatine, carnosine, DHA, taurine. These are all things that our bodies can make, but if we're out of animal products that provide them naturally, then I have to make sure that I really and truly get them from some kind of supplement, and a good quality supplement, not something that's going to end up in the toilet, but something that's actually going to benefit me by my ingestion and eating of it. And again, in the proper amounts. How much creatine actually gets into the body through a pill is super critical because it's needed in so many things. DHA for brain health, absolute mandatory, those things there. But again, when we look at animal protein, I may have a really good quality of animal protein steak, but depending on how I cook it, if I put it on the stove or the grill, barbecue grill, and I have those nice black charcoal marks on it, and it makes everything taste good, look good. Again, advanced glycation aging projects, AGEs, might be a health issue down the road. So I got to look at not only what my meat is, how is it processed? Is it processed with other preservatives and things, antibiotics? So it doesn't have a lot of nitrosamines in it. Bacon. I've been buying my bacon now for years, uncured, because it takes all of that nitrosamines out of the system. One less thing that I have to worry about from a health issue. Yeah, bacon's an issue, but when I add other stuff in it that's also issues, it's an issue, bigger issue. Cooking methods. If I'm broiling, I'm baking, I'm stewing, I'm boiling. There's so many different cooking methods: dry, wet, with oil, without oil. Anyway, the cooking methods have an issue with regard to the level of protein you get, the taste of that protein, and also the availability of that protein to be absorbed into our bodies. And again, how much are you eating? We talked about eating in moderation. But again, if I go out and I have a really big steak dinner and it's 12-ounce ribeye, okay, one meal, no single meal is going to hurt you. But if I have a 12-ounce ribeye 16 times in a week, yeah, that's a big deal. There's a lot of things that they talked about with regard to red meat being a heart risk and even a cancer risk. But now they're starting to look at things that are, well, that's what we used to think. But in reality, you take a look at saturated fat. Well, most of the negativity on saturated fat was really prominent back in the mid 80s because they're saying saturated fat causes heart attack, causes this, causes that. But coconut oil had been used for centuries in various places in the world, and various studies I did, particularly two that I'm aware of, one in India and one in Nigeria. Saturated plant fat, whether it's red palm oil from Nigeria or whether it's coconut oil from many sources over in Asia, that's saturated fat, but it's not the same as saturated animal fat. And that animal fat is digested, processed in a different way depending on what your gut biome is. What is your gut really looking at? So if you're looking at those things, lots of data out there, but you have to read both sides of the equation because it's super important. But yes, there are some risks there. But when I look at National Institute of Health and what is really a problem, they say there's really not a whole lot of evidence that I can say, yeah, it's really a problem. They say maybe 9 people out of 100, if you do it this way, is 9 people out of 100 eating the same stuff a problem? I don't know. So saying animal protein, can eat in moderation. Labels, it's probably one of the biggest things I've seen in my more recent life, the last 10 to 15 years, is being able to read a label and understand what's on that label. If you pick up the thing, there's 6 items in there and it says one serving is the entire package or the entire, that's super simple. But if you look at it, there's 30 things on the inside this product. Garlic bread you buy at the store must have 30 different chemicals in that garlic bread. And if you can't read them and understand them, probably that's not what you want. Again, one Sunday afternoon to have garlic bread and the rest of the week, month you don't, not a big deal. But read the labels because it does tell you a lot about what the serving size is, which is really critical, and so many other things. I already talked about the supplement cobalamin, vitamin B12, and stomach acid. But there are so many other deficiencies that our bodies have that supplementation is needed. Again, if I'm trying to get calcium and the bottle says calcium carbonate, I know that's going to end up in the toilet. It's very difficult for calcium carbonate to get in our bodies. So I need a calcium citrate or some other kind. So again, proper research and awareness is what is that kind of calcium. Vitamin E, there's 8 different kinds of vitamin E. Most of the time they give you one, alpha tocopherol, and it's a synthetic. It's no good at all. It ends up no value. But what you really need are all 8 of the molecules that make up vitamin E, and one of them in particular, I think, is the alpha tocotrienol. That one, if you have enough in your brain, if you have a stroke, chances are you'll survive very easily with no side effects. At least that's what the research has shown me. I recommend, personally, this is me, changing your protein out every 2 days. And the main reason for that is my research that I did on the Wahls Protocol, a diet my wife, dietary regimen my wife was on after she finished chemo before she started radiation. They don't tell you that in the Wahls Protocol, but my research shows that, let's say today I'm having salmon and maybe chicken. Tomorrow I want to have beef and bison or something. So it's changed every 48 hours, you should not have the same protein. I just think that's a smart way of having our bodies prepare properly. Let's see what we got here. We're getting right down to healthy fats, looking at the time. More than anything else, too much of a good thing is bad. Awareness is a major issue. If I'm looking at the labels and I can see things in there, the toxins, the free range for eggs or their cage range, antibiotics, Is there preservatives in it? Artificial colors and flavors? Those are not things I want. Maybe the outside label will say no antibiotics, but I go in there and there's got a lot of other preservatives and things in. So again, be careful about what you're buying. The outside is marketing information. Turn it over and look at the label to really and truly know what's in there. Let's see here real quickly. Let's go ahead. I think that's a good place to leave it. We're going to leave it and come back and talk about fats in general the next time we get together. So that being the case, healthy fats will be our next lead in. Let's get down here. The recorded shows of Talking Heads, my platform here, can be found on YouTube. Go there, look for USA Global TV. There's a playlist, look for Talking Heads. I've talked on many, many different aspects: stress, toxins, brain health, cancer, weight management, longevity, lifestyle, nutrition. Lots and lots of information. I've written several books. I think for today, if I wanted one in particular to talk about, is The Joy of Ageless Health. If I'm looking at stress and toxins and radiation and inflammation, infection, diet, expectations, those are things that can lead to chronic low-level cellular inflammation. Those are things you can address and control. Anyway, that's a book I would recommend. It's on Amazon or on my website. Take care, and I'll see you all next week, and we'll see if we can try to finish this thing up within the next 2 weeks. Bye now.